Hello, everyone, and welcome to Petworking, the inaugural episode, podcast focused on pet care and animal health. I'm Peter Kenseth. I'm a vice president at Maya Strategy Group, where I lead the animal health and pet care practice. And I am joined today by Ginny Rentko and Nick Sinclair of Leap Years / Animal Bioscience. Very excited to have Nick and Ginny on. They have a new product that I think is going to be a real game changer in the space. Happened to meet Nick and saw it at Western Vet, and I'm super excited to have them on to be able to tell you a little bit more about it. And they've just launched, so I will turn it over to Nick and Ginny to give an intro of their company and the Leap Years product that I think can make a huge difference in the quality of life for our dogs.
Great. Thanks, Pete. Well, thanks for having us on today. Yeah, I guess a bit of a background around, Ginny and I and the company Animal Bioscience. We started about 5 years ago, looking to adapt human longevity technology into the pet space. And there's several areas of longevity science and extension of life in the human space. So we looked to take that into the pet space. Now, what we soon found was that longevity and life extension may be an ultimate goal, but really health span is the thing that is really driving pet owners. It's really about the quality of life of their animals and making sure that they've got fit, healthy lives. And if that extends lifespan, great as an outcome, but really it's about the health span of animals. So we took that forward with Animal Biosciences and started developing a range of supplements. And honed that down to a particular supplement that we've got a patented formulation for that looks at boosting NAD and targeting senolytic cells in the body of animals. So, we can talk about the science behind that a little bit, because they might be very new terms to some people. But ultimately what it means is we give these supplements to old dogs and it reinvigorates them. For want of a better term. We see more engagement mentally, we see more activity, we see them, as I say, engaging with their owners more. And a lot of these dogs, as they're declining, we're actually seeing them bouncing back to, in inverted commas, a puppy-like state, where they've got a lot more vitality about them. So we embarked on this, as I said, 5 years ago. We developed the molecules over 2 years, and we've been doing studies and trials over the last 3 years to really show that this works.
It's great to hear. Now, and Nick, you mentioned, giving an overview of the science to those people that might not be familiar with NAD and senolytics. And really what grabbed my eye at Western Vet is years ago, I had taken a human NAD boosting product. I took it around just before turning 30, so I might have been a little bit on the early end of the spectrum to really notice results, but I saw NAD plus in dogs, and that really grabbed my eye. That being said, not everybody works in animal health and human health, and may not be familiar with the science behind NAD or senolytics. Could you give kind of a rundown from the layman's perspective about how NAD works? And I think you had mentioned your brother is a leading human aging scientist at Harvard and was a big part of your ability to kind of bring this product to market and take that technology from the human spectrum and translate it to our dogs.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, my brother David Sinclair is a professor at Harvard. He's been working on aging research for about the last 25, almost 30 years now. And he's had some, revolutionary discoveries in the aging field, one of which was NAD boosting and the field of NAD boosting. There's been a large number of scientists working on this. He's not the only one. But at Harvard, they were looking at NAD boosting and extension of lifespan. We took that concept and looked at NAD boosters as a whole. We developed our own proprietary NAD booster, which is in Leap Years, and we proved it to be, effective as the other NAD boosters. a lot of us have heard the term the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. So in the mitochondria, there's an enzyme called NAD that helps with that power generation within the mitochondria of the cell. And as we age, NAD declines. From about middle age, it starts declining. And it's consumed by inflammation in the body. It's consumed throughout the body, and all cells in the body use NAD, and it's critical for every mitochondria and every cell to function. Because it declines, or when it declines, cells become dysfunctional because they don't have the enzyme in that system to act efficiently. So what we do is we put the NAD back in to make the mitochondria function better. Now, if they don't have NAD and they start becoming dysfunctional, the impact of that is things like inability to repair DNA. When mutations happen, when we're young, we have young cells and they get exposed to sunlight or anything else, they can deal with a certain level of mutations. As cells get older, they lose that ability to deal with these changes. And one of the reasons is because there's not enough NAD in there to make this system function properly. So when we boost the NAD back, we see a reinvigoration at the cellular level. And that's what we're targeting, is actually making the mitochondria more functional. Now, the outcome of that long-term is that disease states don't tend to appear, or what we've seen is as an outcome, that over time, because the mitochondria are functioning better and these mutations aren't happening, and it's activating what I call the SIRT genes, S-I-R-T, which are also known as the longevity genes. Essentially, it's making our cells more resistant and more adaptable and more resilient. So now that's the NAD side of the picture. The other side is in our bodies, we have senolytic cells. Now, these cells are cells that every cell's supposed to divide and divide. And when it's finished dividing and it's old, it should die and be absorbed back into the body. Some of these cells divide, and then don't die. And they're anecdotally known, or colloquially known, as zombie cells, or senolytic zombie cells, secrete inflammatory proteins. And essentially, they're required for some level of immunity. They function in your immune system, and they're needed for wound healing. But too much on the other end of the scale creates inflammation, and in turn, consumes even more of the NAD that's depleting. So we've got this combination of the more senolytics you have, the more NAD consumption you have, and it's declining at the same time. So what we do is we use a senolytic compound to remove these senolytic cells. And what that does is it clears out the senolytic cells, and then we boost with NAD afterwards. And what we do is we boost the good cells and remove the bad cells that are consuming the NAD. Yes, Ginny, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
I think, Peter, this business of senolysis, lysing these senescent cells, the regimen that we use is that we do a pulse regimen. So we use the senolytic at the beginning of the month, kill off the senescent cells, and then it takes about 4 to 6 weeks or so for senescent cells to reaccumulate, and then they get the pulse therapy again. It's not therapy. Yeah.
So that it's natural, the body's sort of regulating a homeostatic balance, but the senolytic compound is removing any potential excess that you would see as a result of advanced age.
Yeah. So leap years supports the natural clearance of the body of these cells.
That's great.
The body naturally clears these cells, and leap years supports that.
And apologies, I misspoke. It's a senescent cell, but a senolytic removes senescent cells. I think I said it.
I think people will get it, hopefully. So now, Nick, Ginny, you guys have mentioned, that you're in a more formal, going through more formal trials now at North Carolina State Veterinary College, correct? But you have, these years of anecdotal evidence in the compassionate use program. Can you talk a little bit about, how many dogs, animals have participated in the compassionate use program, and are there any, real breakthrough stories that you'd like to share, as sharing that anecdotal evidence from the compassionate use program?
Yeah, sure. I guess I could also talk about it in the context of the other studies we've done. So, as I said, when we embarked on this journey, we thought, okay, quality of life, old dogs slowing down. What do we do? Well, the best thing to do is increase activity. Get a dog moving a little bit more. And we knew that NAD boosters had an effect on activity. So that's the first thing that we started looking at, was an increase in activity. But we had dogs in a laboratory environment. We measured their activity, and we found, as we suspected, that their levels of activity went up. They had more intensity when they were moving, and our control dogs didn't move as much. But then we found, very interestingly, which we didn't expect, that they were sleeping better. So it was actually affecting their circadian rhythms as well as giving them activity. It was making them sleep better at night, and they were less restless. And we actually found that around this time, we were also doing the compassionate use program, as you mentioned, and we probably have, I think we went up to about 50 dogs have been on the compassion, 40 or 50 dogs in all, at various stages. And people were reporting back to us very similar things. My old dog that was pacing the floor at night is now sleeping through the night. So we were really surprised by the sleep benefit. We expected the activity benefit, and of course, we were delighted to see that these dogs have more vigor about them. So what we found was that owners were saying their dogs were more engaged with them. And we started looking at that in more depth, and we added components into our trial for cognitive decline and looking at cognitive decline. And we know that these senolytic compounds in human trials have affected cognition. They reduce frailty, and they've reduced the decline in cognition in humans. That's been shown in trials. And we started seeing that in our studies, our compassionate use, and we're now seeing this in our clinical trial as well, in some of the early indications that are coming out. So we're still working through that, but amazingly, owners were saying that their dogs, the one that was barking at the wind is now sitting next to them like they used to before. They're running to the door when the doorbell rings rather than just sitting in their basket and looking out the window. So it's a dramatic change in these older dogs. But
what's the appropriate age that you would recommend? Obviously, you could take it prophylactically, kind of like I probably started to do when I started taking NAD plus around 30. But what, with respect to dogs, what are we talking? 7, 8, 9? Obviously it will vary by breed, I would imagine. But what are your recommendations about when it's appropriate to start using this as a pet owner? When is it appropriate to start giving to your dog?
Sure. Peter, as you mentioned, it is breed specific. And so what we recommend is that dogs that are about 2/3 through their expected lifespan for their breed, that they would be considered senior. If someone wanted to do it prophylactically, maybe it's halfway through the lifespan of your particular breed. But this is a supplement for senior dogs, for older dogs. We seem to see the most dramatic effect the older the dog is, but it's an effect at the cellular level early, so you may not see a clinical effect if the dog is young. Yeah. And dogs that are young have enough stores of NAD and don't have a lot of senescent cells. So this is an adult dog product.
Right. And I mean, what an amazing gift, though. I mean, if you've spent your life or the dog's life with you, and as opposed to watching it waste away in its later years, if you could restore that quality of life, that vitality that you enjoyed when it was younger, what an amazing gift for both you and the dog. That's amazing. I was out the other day. Ginny and I go ski joring a lot, and when there's no snow on the ground, we go rollerblading. But I've definitely noticed she does not run as much as she used to now that she's almost 8.5. And the idea of being able to kind of turn back that time a little bit and go back to the way things were, that's, to me, that's amazing promise. What's the oldest dog you have seen benefit from taking leap years?
Well, two points I think are worth making. We have a 17-year-old Pomeranian with multiple old age problems, as you might expect. And she has been taking leap years for about 5 or 6 months now. And, you know, she's enjoying her quality of life. And that's what this is about, is having a quality of life that gives more time, that is enjoyable for both the dog and the pet parent. One other comment about our compassionate use program compared to our clinical trial is that the reason we wanted to get a lot of our friends and family of older dogs on this was so that we could just anecdotally look at what some of these clinical effects could be, so that we could design our clinical trial in a way that we could rigorously test our hypotheses about what the clinical effects of these compounds were. And so, you know, it's fun to talk about, oh, the dogs seem to have more life in them and more vitality and what. And the clinical proof really lies in the fact that in a double-blind placebo-controlled trial, we have dogs that had received treatment and dogs that haven't received treatment, and then sorting out, you know, specifically the differences in them.
Right. And you mentioned, you know, the compassionate use program and the anecdotal reports of the improved cognition. You probably would not have known to test for that,
right,
or to incorporate that into a trial, you know, had you not had the compassionate use to sort of get hypotheses around what this compound could do in the field. And now you guys have just started. You just had your first shipment, correct? That's
yeah, yes.
All right. I'm assuming you saw, you know, fairly positive response. Can you share a little bit about, you know, how things have gone so far? How many orders you're seeing? Any, you know, if folks are interested in purchasing, they can go to the website now and get it.
Yeah, so we're seeing orders coming in as we expected. We went with awareness in the veterinary space first, hence why you saw us at WVC. We went to VMX. The reason being is we want veterinarians to have this information at hand when clients start asking about it. This is new science. Not everybody's heard it. So we started in the veterinary space, and we're seeing a fair bit of traction in the veterinary space coming in. We're now moving more into the consumer side, pushing into, you know, digital media and those sorts of things around the consumer side. And now we're seeing a shift more from the veterinary space into the consumer space. So, you know, that's really great. You know, the way that the numbers are moving, that's actually surprised us, is we were thinking we would see more large breeds. We know that people who own Great Danes, from the moment they're born, they're worried about their lifespan. They don't live as long enough. So all large breeds we thought would be, you know, very keen for this product. Maybe it's an awareness thing, but what we're seeing is that we're getting a mass influx of small breeds. So that's been really interesting for us. We're getting a lot more small than large breeds. But, you know, as it swings to the consumer, maybe that'll shift. You know, maybe the veterinarian space is targeting small. There's more need in small breeds, but we'll just see over time how that evolves. But it's a really interesting thing to see.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've definitely seen in our observation of the market, at least from a nutrition perspective, a lot of small breed specific diets really proliferating in the last couple of years. And, you know, dating back to Super Zoo, I think 2021, and certainly Super Zoo last summer, 2022, we saw several major manufacturers, Hills, Wellness, Natural Balance, Canaday, all coming out with small breed specific formulations. And that's kind of tailed off a little bit this year, but I think that's because they've kind of saturated the market, so to speak. And when we think about, you know, convenience and where pet ownership is trending, you know, we're seeing people in urban environments, apartments becoming more pet friendly, but putting, you know, a 50-pound weight limit on the pets that you can have, and being able to fly with your pets. A lot of people want to be able to take their pets on planes. So it'll be interesting to see if it continues to bear out. Peony here is 70 pounds, so I will be getting the large breed formulation, but good to know that there's plenty of the large breed formulation to go around.
Yes, we cater for everyone, which is great. I mean, the thing that's in some way a little bit unique about our product is we did enough testing to know exactly what amount needs to be in the chew to get the right effect. Often we see in supplements, what's the effective dose? I'm saying that in inverted commas, dose, because it's a supplement. We don't call it a dose per se, but what's the effective amount? Most supplements don't test to see what an effective amount is. We went through the rigor of really understanding, is it bioavailable? Is it getting into the system? What's the effect? And then correlating that effect, as I mentioned. And it's a really unique thing, I think, in this industry. And when we look at our small size versus our medium and our large, yes, it's the same chew, but it's been specifically designed so the small dogs get exactly the right amount, and the medium dogs get exactly the right amount, and the large dogs get exactly the right amount. If you ever see a product out there that's the same supplement for every dog, I'd be questioning it.
Yeah. No, I mean, you have what, I think 4 different formulations: small, medium, large, and extra large.
That's correct. Yeah, and it goes up by, obviously goes up by number of chews depending on the dog size. The other unique thing about our product, as Ginny mentioned earlier, is we have this pulse dosing where we do the first 2 days of the month, we do the senolytic compound, and then the rest of the month we do the NAD boosting. So you actually have a combination of a jar with a little bag inside it. And when you open the jar, you take the bag contents for the first 2 days, and then the rest of the month you take the jar contents.
Yeah, actually, Nick, I think one point of clarification is that those first 2 days, it's a combination product. It's the senolytic and the NAD booster.
Yeah.
And how's the obviously, I think one of the big things with supplements is palatability, right? Will your dog take it? Are you, what kind of research went into driving the palatability? Have you seen any evidence of dogs not being picky and not wanting to consume the supplement?
We went through, so we work with a major supplier manufacturer who has a palatant. It's a non-animal based product. It's a synthetic palatant. It's been specifically designed for use in dogs to taste like beef. It's not beef, but it tastes like beef. We've not had a dog dislike it yet. In fact, we were actually at WVC. We opened up a jar as a sample to show to a few veterinarians. And next thing I knew, there was a service dog sitting next to me, looking up at me like, okay. So, they must be attractive even from afar.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's
great.
And,
again, my cat is now trying to get into them as well. So we think they might even be palatable for cats, but that's going to be.
Do you think down the road, the next stage in the development of the product would be to extend into cats?
Definitely. It's definitely in our plans to go to cats, and other species where appropriate. But again, we want to go back to the science. We don't just want to say, yep, it works in a dog, therefore it works in a cat. We really need to go back to the science and do some rigorous testing to understand what's really happening before we have a cat product. So it's in the works, but it's a little way off yet.
Probably a few years out, I would guess.
Yeah, hopefully less. We've got a lot of cat lovers out there that are asking, great, leap years for dogs, but what about my cat? So
yeah,
and I feel the same way. But I now have a compassionate use program for my own cat. So
and are you seeing good results so far? I
am. He's a 10-year-old short-haired. He came from Australia with me. As you can tell, my accent is Australian. He's had an interesting life. Everything from impaling himself on a stick to paralysis tics to being attacked by a coyote when he got here. So he's got his challenges.
He made it to 10 with all that, so good for him.
He's an outdoor cat. He came from Australia. He was outdoor there. He's outdoor here, even though we worry about him every time he goes out, and he's only got daytime hours now. But anyway, he couldn't catch chipmunks before, and as soon as I put him on the NAD boosters, he caught a chipmunk. So anecdotal.
Chipmunk accelerator.
N of one, an anecdotal only, but
That wasn't the first day after you put it on him. Maybe a week or two later, or
it was a couple of weeks. It takes about 10 to 10 days to 2 weeks to take effect.
so people will
I
start
think
seeing
we're down a
results.
rabbit hole, even though we're talking about cats.
Yeah.
We don't know yet about cats, Peter, but
We
we're
don't know.
working on it.
Yeah.
No, but I guess, from
Focus dogs.
bringing it back to dogs, you would
Yeah.
say people could expect to start to see results in 10 to 15 days.
Yes, that's what we see generally. Yeah. So, and it's in line with what we see in humans with NAD boosting as well. About the 10 to 15 day mark, people say that they really start to feel that energy from NAD boosters. But yeah, I met with a client who's in our compassionate use, the tail end of our compassionate use program, and they said to me, "I can't believe it, Arthur, my little dog, he's like a puppy again. He's running around. He's got so much more vitality about him." And I said, "How long have you been taking it for?" And they said, "Yeah, about 10 days, 2 weeks." Oh, yeah, that's right in line with what we've generally seen, is about 10 days to 2 weeks.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I mean,
So,
we even
so
have. Sorry, you
no,
go.
go ahead. Go ahead, Nick.
I was just going to say, we even have some of our clients have said that people have come over to their houses not knowing that their dog's on the supplement, and they've asked, "What's with the dog? Like, it's a different dog. It's a new dog. It's got a lot more energy about it. What's going on?" So, this anecdotal evidence is supported externally of people who've seen these dogs, who don't even know they're on it. They're noticing the difference. So,
And no, there's no drug interactions or anything with the supplement.
not that we're aware of. It's a natural compound. These molecules exist in naturally within the body, and also naturally within food. Ginny could probably talk more to it than I can. But
Well, I think an important part of this, that's a really good question, Peter. And anytime you add something else to an older dog who may be on multiple medications, it's wise to ask that question. We are collecting data in our clinical trial about any kind of potential adverse effect, and these dogs are on multiple medications for various disease states. So stay tuned for that. But the safety profile on these products in the human field is very good. So we don't anticipate much trouble there.
That's great. Great. I figured it would just hit me as, thinking about, given that a lot of these older dogs are going to be on, Rimadyl or, other medications for pain.
Yeah.
That's that.
Yeah, we've also done safety studies up to 30 times dose for these compounds as well, with no adverse effects at all. So, your dog could eat the whole jar in one go and not have any adverse effect. So we know that.
Not that I would encourage anyone to do it. Did anyone see any added benefit from it?
I wouldn't know. We didn't do a study of that size, of that dose. Yeah.
So as you wrap up the trials, do you have what's the end date on the trial, and what are the big next steps and milestones with leap years once you complete the trial?
So it's a 6-month trial. So we're waiting for all the dogs to complete their 6 months. So those data will be available before the end of the year.
That's great.
But as we look forward, anytime a new product comes on the market, we want to hear back from pet owners who are giving it to their dogs and sharing. So we have ways to collect information from folks, and we're interested to see that. The exciting part of this is that these are compounds that are used in humans, and it's fun to see that a product that was in humans can now be offered to dogs.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm assuming, that the results of the trial are positive and go as intended, you'll be able to leverage clinical recommendations through veterinarians, and that might open up some other avenues through, potential integrations with pet insurance or things like that. I don't know if any of those are definitely in the works, but is that something that, years down the road, folks could potentially look forward to?
Certainly.
The rule of thumb, with with veterinary recommendations is that if there is a product that a veterinarian recommends, typically the insurance company will help cover that, if so long as it's indicated, for the well-being and health of the particular pet. So that's to come, and we'll see. We're optimistic about that.
That would be really cool. I feel like a lot of my conversations in the animal health space circle back to pet insurance. So here I am again, but that would, I think, for folks that do have pet insurance, that if you are able to access a pet insurance company's wellness plan or receive reimbursement, that would be huge for both leap years and for pet owners.
I mean, if there's, for the veterinarians listening, or even vet techs for that matter, if you're interested in the product and working with us on providing feedback or, getting this out to customers, you can reach out to us. We're looking for, partners and affiliates, a two-way program here. We're not just talking about selling it. We want to understand the information and the long-term information of a product like this. So we'd like that to be a two-way mechanism. But, people can contact us. We're at www.leapyears.com. So that's where you can actually buy the product. You can see all the information about the product there. We're on Instagram and Facebook and everything else, but you can reach out to us through any of those channels. And we can either provide the information or, provide you with some of the product. So, it's really exciting for us to have a product like this, as Ginny mentioned, that we can bring into animals. But the great thing is the citizen scientists and people, the dog lovers out there, like myself, love to give information about their dogs. We all want to talk about our dogs and how well our dogs are doing. So we're hoping along that line that we get a lot of information back from dog owners on how great Leap Years is, and build that, that, I guess, database of evidence for us to show how great it is. So,
well, I personally look forward to sharing positive results with Peony here, and I think you're absolutely right, Nick. Everybody thinks they have the greatest dog in the world, and everybody is right. It's I think it makes it very easy, for products like Leap Years to gain acceptance, and I think it gives a very easy why for the effort and time that goes into bringing a product like this to market, because you're contributing to a better life for people and their animals. And for me, I know in when I'm doing work in this field, I look at Peony and I know how much I love her, and I know everybody else feels the same way about their dog. So for anybody out there that can get added benefit and added time and vitality with their dogs, I think Leap Years will be a huge breakthrough.
Yeah. And I think, the other benefit is, what I'm hearing from veterinarians is, when you get to the later life of a dog, there's not a lot of options you have for the dog. Maybe treating some joint issues. A lot of our dogs are on joint supplements, but otherwise it's just treating disease state. That's really all you can do. As the diseases pop up, you knock them on the head. There's very little preventative supplementation of products like this that are preventative as well. So it's really exciting that, when somebody comes in and says, my dog's slowing down, the answer isn't just, oh yeah, he's getting old. The answer is, oh, well, you can actually do something about that now. If your dog's slowing down, you can pick it back up and, give it a bit of a boost and get it back on track again. So, that's a conversation that veterinarians, as far as I'm aware, haven't been having. And it's really exciting to hear that they will be having those conversations. So, yeah,
whatever we can do to help spread the word, I think it will be, it's a real game changer in my opinion. And
Thanks,
look
Peter.
forward to seeing the results of the trial and experimenting with it myself and with Peony. So we will keep you posted, and thank you guys so much. Again, this is Petworking, a podcast focused on pet care and animal health. Thank you so much, Nick, Ginny. I'm Peter Kenseth, and we will look forward to hearing stories of the positive effects that Leap Years is having for right now dog owners and their canine companions, and hopefully soon down the road, cat owners will be able to extend the quality of life for their cats as well.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Okay. Thank you.